Brrrrothas. The Property Brrrrothas.
What's up, everybody? How you doing, man? It's your host, Jordan, along with Drew, and we are the Property Brrrrothas. Drew, what's up, my friend? How are you today?
I'm fantastic. I am fantastic. How about you? What's going on
Dude,
with you?
happy Sunday, man. It's a great weekend. I'm just chilling today and excited to get into this episode and talk to you about the next process in the BRRRR strategy into rehab. So what do we got today for the people?
So today we are talking about that next level, like you said, the next step. We're talking about rehab. How do you take a looker into a booker, right?
Yeah.
And I think the first thing that we got to think about is we should probably go back to that buy phase, right? So we were talking about how to position yourself and purchase properly. And when you're doing that, obviously you need to be thinking about that rehab, right? What is it going to cost when you're buying, right? That entire process is something that you need to be analyzing throughout thick and through thin.
100%. Yeah. So this is probably the most crucial strategy, crucial step in this BRRRR strategy is getting this rehab right, And so we're going to kind of recap when you are in the buy process, when you've found that property, you're like, okay, this is it. I'm going to pull the trigger. You also need to kind of run your numbers while you're buying and while you're in that contingency phase. Okay, what is the rehab going to cost? What is it going to take? And I think we have to really start, Drew, with, the person on your team that's going to be crucial in getting this rehab to be successful and across the finish line. And I believe that's the contractor.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I would take it one step further is, that property needs to be inspected, right? And I think that having a good property inspector that you can trust. I like to work with the same property inspector. Shout out to Sean over at Indie Spec. That dude is absolutely incredible. He knows exactly what I'm looking for, right?
Right.
So do I need mechanicals, like the HVAC and the plumbing and the electrical? Is it knob and tube, or has the electrical been updated? Do we need to look at, are there lead pipes, right? Going through that whole plumbing process, like having that inspector go through and do like a sewer scope is great. Some inspectors don't have that capability, but I think where we're investing, we absolutely have to, it's critical to understand what's going on in those sewers. Those can come back and bite you. But, I like to have not only it came up on me. Get off me. Get off me. I like to not only have my inspector go out there, but I want the GC to also meet that inspector so that, tag team, they're looking at different things. As the inspector is uncovering certain situations, the GC can be saying, all right, well, I think that, all right, we're going to take note of that. And this is going to be a line item that we need to consider when we're doing the bid, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just about getting everybody on the same page, and having that successful rehab can, really impact your ROI, your return on investment. And so it starts, like Drew said, get that inspection done, if you can get everybody on the same page, have the GC out there with them, walk the property. And so I think it's really important to, go ahead, vet that contractor, research the contractor. And, Drew, we've had a lot of experience with contractors, haven't we?
Yeah, man.
Good
really
and bad.
Listen, that's part of the reason why I started my niche in my advertising agency, right? Is we've had so many interesting experiences with contractors just being dishonest, coming out, not really fully inspecting the scope of the project, realizing the scope was too big and then taking off with your money, that kind of stuff. So I think that's going to be a great episode for us to, maybe revisit down the road where we say, all right, why the cheapest contractor is not always the best contractor or can cost you in the end. But you're right. You need to be able to vet that contractor. So what are some of the things that we need to look at when we're looking at the contractor?
Yeah, I mean, you want a contractor that's got qualities like communication, you know,
Huge, huge.
how are they communicating with you?
Yeah.
In what format are they communicating with you? How often are they communicating with you?
Transparency,
And
right?
just being clear and consistent with what is going on with the project. That communication is got to be paramount, man. Because if you don't have that, and especially if you're like us and you are long distance investing, then you're literally in the dark. I mean, you can absolutely fly out there to wherever you're going, but you got to be able to trust that on a day-to-day basis that contractor is communicating with you, and that things are getting done and getting done to what they said they're going to do. What else
Yeah,
do you got to have?
I think also that they have to have a great reputation. So I mean, this contractor needs to have some sort of portfolio or something that says I've done this type of project before, right? These are the tools that I have in my toolbox. So not all contractors are created equal. Some contractors are specialized in certain areas. So, you may have a contractor who can get you the framing and can get you the drywall, et cetera, but then they don't do electrical, right? And you need somebody that's going to be forthcoming as to exactly what they're bringing to the table and what you might need to sub out to other contractors. Now, hopefully you've got a general contractor who has all of those contacts already.
Yeah.
And if they do, then fantastic. You got to also figure out, are you going to be hands-on throughout the process, or do you want somebody who is going to be kind of that white glove service? And we've done both, right? And I can tell you, I much rather the white glove service than being involved in the day-to-day, communicating with subs,
1,000%.
Project managing and that kind of stuff. So, but you have to realize, what is your pound of flesh, right? What are you willing to give up? Because a lot of times when you are saving money, that means you're giving up time, right? And so those are some things. But I would say that key quality is, does the contractor have a great reputation? Do they have jobs that when you look at them, you're like, that's what I want my job to look like at the end of the day, right?
Yes, absolutely, man. And I think that's so apropos, dude. Like, a lot of people, they want to, take something off of the contractor's hands, like, oh, I can do that. I can check in, or I can go buy this, I can buy that, and just, and just shoot it over to the site. But, a lot of times when you're doing that, like you alluded to, you're taking time away from whatever else that you have to do. And can you find someone that can offer that white glove service, which is super ideal, but, you got to vet them. And so you got to look at online references, word of mouth, get with other investors, right?
100%.
In your market. Again, shout out to the Bigger Pockets community, but just like, get really niche down in your local area. Maybe you're going to real estate area meetings and you are talking to people.
Go to your local RIA.
Yeah. And just say, hey, I got a rehab going on in this area. Who are you guys using? What are some good contractors to use? Who should I avoid? What are some good services that you would recommend? And, start there. And then, another thing is, are they following through? Does your contractor really have the ability from start to finish to see that project across the finish line?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to make sure, when your contractor is coming to you and saying, all right, here's the bid, right? Okay, cool. That's the money part. Well, what's the deliverables, right? What are the milestones that you are currently working towards that's going to help us to not only get this job done under budget, but on time, right? So there needs to be certain milestones that are mapped out. And I would almost demand that they're mapped out ahead of time so that you are managing expectations. And that's part of that transparent communication. That's also going to allow the contractor to follow through the way that you would expect them to. And it also helps you to make sure that you're not giving a whole lot of money up front, right? So that's something that early investors typically make the mistake of, right? They get a good contractor, or they get a contractor that they think they can trust, and they give them a huge wad of money to start the project thinking, oh man, if I give them this much money, it's going to make the job go much faster.
Yeah.
No, you need to keep that contractor incentivized to actually perform based off of the expectations of the agreement.
Right. And so basically what, I hear you telling our audience is, come with a budget in mind, right? Which is why during the inspection process, you're getting all those big ticket items, mapped out. Come with a timeline. What is going to be actually realistic? If they tell you 3 months, then, maybe 5 months is realistic. Give yourself that buffer so that you can work it into your numbers and set clear expectations.
If my contractor said 5 months and it took, or if my contractor said 3 months and it took 5 months, there's a problem.
There's a
right?
problem.
Like
right.
Your contractor hopefully has gone through this process before, and they understand what the process is to deliver the final product, right? So if your contractor's that far off, there might be something that you need to reconsider.
Yeah. Well, what I mean is for the investor, for your numbers, always try to bake in some wiggle room, right? And 100%. So that you should have, that budget to go beyond the 3 months or 6 months or whatever they say that it's going to take. Right. Because Drew, scope changes happen.
Changes happen. They really
100%, right? All the time, right? So you have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to be like, all right, things happen. We didn't foresee that, we had to pull out this ceiling and redo this whole kitchen, or, there's some things that you just don't know. So you have to kind of bake those things in there, and having the contractor to be transparent, to be reliable, to be professional, and to have good references is
that's huge.
What you have to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, you also need to be aware of, like, if the contractor during the bidding process, if they're not responsive, you need to take that like into consideration. That's huge. Like, you need to make sure that, how someone does one thing is how they do everything. So if they're not responsive, if they are not giving you references, if they have unrealistic, like if it sounds too good to be true, you get an estimate that's like half the cost of everybody else.
Yeah. You better run.
Yeah.
And run fast and be like, nah, that's way too good to be true. That sounds like a person who is probably going to take your money and run or, do very little and then try to burn you in the end.
100%. So, and you also need to make sure that person is licensed. You want to, listen,
that sounds obvious, Drew, right? Doesn't that sound obvious?
It really does.
You know what? It happens, dude.
Hey,
like
it's a slippery slope.
Happens.
It's a slippery slope, man. And I think, having that licensed contractor who is insured and who is bonded, right? And when you got that insurance, you want to make sure that your LLC or you are an additional insured. That is absolutely huge. That way that if anything comes back to bite you, knock on wood, that it doesn't. But if something is faulty with the workmanship, that insurance policy may be able to come through and help you to recoup those funds so that it can be done correctly.
Yes. And that goes with creating a solid contract too. I think that's a great segue, right? If you have found the right contractor, right? And they have, and you're like, okay, this is the guy, or this is the gal, or this is the company or the team, as the client, you still are within your rights to kind of create a contract that works for both of you. As those can be some of the things that you outline as far as the insurance and the bond. So if something happens, right, where do we go to move forward? If we have to end the project, if, money changes hands and, things didn't pan out the way that we expected it to, what do we have on paper?
Hopefully you don't have to go that far where it's like you're talking. I mean, if you do what you need to do in the very beginning, like we said, checking the references, making sure that this contractor has a good reputation, checking the work, you'll understand exactly what you're going to get delivered, making sure that there's a very transparent and clear agreement and expectations are mapped out as you would expect them to. What are those deliverables? we shouldn't be talking about, possibly splitting down the road. And hopefully you're building a strong relationship with this contractor from project to project. So now you understand, right? You don't necessarily want to jump from contractor to contractor.
No.
You want to have somebody who is a part of your toolbox,
Absolutely.
someone that you can count on, and they understand what you're looking for. You understand how they work. That is, I think, pivotal to scaling with this BRRRR process, right?
Right.
So we're talking about, we've gone from buy. We talked about, how do we do our napkin math? When we're looking at what is a rehab going to cost and take.
Yeah. So for us, we have a spreadsheet that we use. And if you are listening to us on podcasts, we are screen sharing. So find us on YouTube, Property Brrrrothas, and watch us on YouTube so that you can see the screen share. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And so what you guys are going to see here is a little template that we like to use. This is so that we can do that back of the napkin math that Drew said. And so what we have here, guys, is we have just some of those major items that you typically want to tackle when doing a rehab, right? And so the way that we do it is we kind of have each line item, we just fill in the cells. We have some typical costs that we have developed through our experience. Okay.
Right.
And so as
so
you
we
guys,
know we know like a kitchen is going to cost, $8,000 depending on what you want. So that would be a full replacement of cabinets and countertops and floors and, whatever that may be, but that's a general cost. And obviously project to project, it's going to vary, right?
Right.
But these numbers will help us to figure out what the budget of the rehab is going to be. And over time, those numbers will get more laser focused because you've done it a few times and you'll know, oh man, I had a crack injection in my basement and foundation. Wasn't $375, it was $275 per crack, right? So, you make those adjustments to fit your area. Where are you investing? Because costs are going to be like, hey, if we were getting that kitchen here in California, $1,000 investment may get you a refrigerator, right?
Right. And them cracks, man, we work with them crack. Hey, crack kills.
You better believe it. You better believe it. Stay away from crack. Don't do drugs. Love it.
This was your service announcement.
Yes. But this sheet is pivotal. And, I don't want to go through and show them how to fill out cells, but you can get a really good sense. Can you scroll down to the bottom? So
of course.
Here's what's beautiful. Your contractor is going to tell you what needs to be done, right? And so when your inspector goes and you're looking at that inspection report, you're going to see pictures of the kitchen. You're going to be like, all right, I know I need to replace that. Or I know I need to replace, do a full scale replacement in the bathroom, et cetera. I know that there's going to be costs to do the junk removal and demo. So you'll go through and put that napkin map together to get a general sense of what the rehab is. Your contractor will give you a more firm price of what it's going to be. But this is just helping you to kind of understand, if I buy the house for this, and if I do, $60,000 in rehab, what's the total cost of that? And if I look at what that after repair value is the math going to make sense for us?
Right. And that's all this spreadsheet is, guys. It's just to help you during the buy process. Again, as you begin to do more of these projects and more of these flips, those numbers will start to get real more specific, and it'll just be like, running off the top of your head, boom, 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 boom. And then when you bring your contractor and your inspector in, and they start giving you those real firm numbers, you can kind of compare it to what your back of the napkin math was on this spreadsheet or on a spreadsheet or whatever you're doing it on. And you can see kind of, okay, that's what I thought. All right, let's rock and roll. Right. And this will be all during the buy process.
The one key point that I did want to look at on that sheet, and is the fact that there is a contingency button or a contingency column, which calculates 10% of the budget. So when you are doing your budget, like Jordan alluded to earlier, there's always going to be a scope of work change. You never know what's behind the walls. Having that built-in 10% contingency budget is critical. Yeah, it's critical just so that, it just keeps you honest, right? And the other thing that's built into this is the cost for the holding costs, right? How much does it cost per month for you to hold for utilities and insurance and that kind of stuff? So, when you are looking at a spreadsheet, you want to make sure that you're looking at the entirety of the budget. Don't get, tunnel focus where you're like, well, I'm just going to buy, do the kitchen replacement or do the bathroom replacement or the floors. Those are the hard costs, but there are also some soft costs that are associated with it, the holding costs, and then also any scope of work changes down the road.
Yeah. That's good. So should we share how our current project is going?
Bring it up. Let's see it. I haven't seen it in a few days.
Yeah. So if you guys go back to episode 1, we kind of talked about, our current a deal that we bought that's going through a pretty dramatic rehab change. Man, hey, dude, didn't that remind you of the Addams Family house?
Dude, I love it. I love it. It looks so awesome. It's got some character for sure.
It does. It certainly does, right? And so this is kind of...
when we look at this rehab, I guess, are you going to go through and show them what it looked like beforehand?
Yeah, this is it right now. This is it right now.
Yes, that's ugly.
It's so ugly,
it's a
right?
looker.
This was grandma's house, great-grandma's house, somebody's house. Thank you, Grandma.
Yes.
It's a looker, man. We turning this bad boy into
the carpet.
Booker.
Yes, baby. Nice.
Oh, look at that.
So, dude, I actually really loved that fireplace.
I know. It's gone, though.
It's gone now.
It's gone.
Gorgeous. But, this had all the characteristics that we look for.
Right.
It's got good bones, right?
Yes.
So there was nothing really structurally, bad about this particular property. It just was ugly. There was a lot of ugly characteristics, which is what we love.
Right. And it had a lot of potential. Like right here, you can see we are looking into the kitchen, and then we have some type of dining room. And, what we talked about was knocking this wall out.
Yeah. But check this out. So that was our original plan, right?
Yeah.
What is amazing is we found an incredible contractor who had the foresight and the vision to realize that the placement of this kitchen probably is not the best place for it. And he not only recommended that we knock that wall down, but get rid of that kitchen and move it to a completely new location.
Yeah.
And put a nice master bedroom suite in place of the kitchen. Are you kidding me? Like, that is the value of having a solid contractor who has vision. Oh my gosh. So, yeah,
look at that. Like, we still couldn't figure out what the heck that was.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. I mean, all of that is gross, but I mean, I love it. Look at that shower. That's like a gourmet shower right there.
Oh,
luxury spot. Oh, was that like the Incredible Hulk wallpaper?
Yeah. Look
in
at
that bathroom,
ceiling, dog. Look at this ceiling, man.
Yeah.
It's all gotta go. So
right.
y'all see it, right? This is what we were currently. This is what we bought. Okay.
Yeah.
Now here's where we're at right now. Okay. Demo. So you can see all this brick. I'm gonna tell you that beautiful little
fireplace
that Drew really wanted is gone.
It's gone.
Hey,
I did not realize when we bought this house that there were 2 chimneys.
No, I didn't either.
And that dumpster was full of 2 chimneys.
That's
right.
all.
And so
brick.
that right there is called a scope of work change.
That's it. Yeah.
Because that extra dumpster, it costs more money to haul away cement than it does to haul away drywall.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we go through these photos, guys, I mean, you can just kind of see, the process, and you can see from the weather, there's snow, right? It snowed that day. We started this rehab in February. When we're recording this episode, right now it's March 16th, 2025. We started this rehab about a month ago now, right?
Okay,
About
so
February,
right.
Valentine's Day, I want to say.
I think we need to go back though, because, we saw all that nastiness in the house.
Yeah.
What were the specs before we started? Like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms?
So the specs when we started, it was like a 3-1. We thought it was like a 3-2, but
3-2. Yeah. 3, 1.5. Let's call it.
That's
there was
it.
a shower, but nobody would want to use that shower, right?
Yeah, I mean, dude, like, what the hell is this, man? Like, let me go back here. Like that,
Yeah.
that's a bathroom, but what the hell is that?
Right.
I mean, they were trying to
I
count
think that's
this
the laundry room or something.
as some type of half bath or something crazy.
Yeah.
So we were like, all right, we want to definitely have 2 bathrooms. And,
Right.
where did our
In fact,
contractor come in?
not only 2 bathrooms, I ultimately wanted to have 2.5 bathrooms, right?
Yeah.
So, I believe that every master bedroom needs to have its own bathroom, an ensuite, right?
Right.
And then you need to have at least another bathroom for everybody else to utilize. And
Right.
then
That's
you
the
should
garage.
then you should have a bathroom that people can use, like visitors. So they're not coming in and, all up in your shower and your toothbrush and all that stuff. They can use that half bathroom. So, where our contractor came in, he's like, yeah, we can definitely do that. We can reconfigure some things. And in fact, on top of the 3 bedrooms, we can also create a den, right? So that
loft.
that can be used, a loft that can be used. Like, dude, mind blowing, right? So, he came in with his architecture, right? And they were able to draw out plans for that particular house. And we said, you know what? That's the vision that we want. That's exactly, us, what we're looking for. So he came in, and so now we're going to have 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, right?
Right.
And it's already beautiful. I mean, we're going through right now, we're looking at what he did to the exterior of the home. But on top of that, part of our process is converting the garage into what?
An ADU or a DADU, dadu, or what y'all call them out in the Midwest, a carriage house.
Carriage house, yeah. Or an accessory dwelling unit. What was the D for?
Detached accessory dwelling. I guess they call them that in Washington or something. Dadus.
Yeah. But I mean, this is just an opportunity for, if you looked at the garage, the way that it was set up, it didn't even have a garage door, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't used to store a car, right? So it's not like we're losing that functionality.
It was more like
what
a
we're able to do,
barn.
yeah, it was like a barn or something. So what we are able to do is take this and convert it into a 1-bedroom, 1-bath unit. And the proximity of this particular house to downtown, we're looking at that as a potential short-term rental and potential mid-term rental, right? So
There you
now
go.
you're increasing the opportunity to make some additional revenue.
There's some brand new windows now we got on there. Right. So you can see this team, man. Our contractor, man, they're hustling. They're working around the clock. You can see they're going into the night, into the evening, and they're just getting ish done. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. So, and again, we're talking about that rehab process. So what's nice is we are having very clear communication with our contractor. He's letting us know, hey, this week, what we're doing is a vinyl siding. We're replacing the windows. We've also gone in and done all the demo. We've started framing in the house. So like we have very
That's beautiful.
Yeah, man, that's gorgeous. We have very clear communication from our contractor to let us know where this project is. And that's huge. It's absolutely huge. So there's a lot of work that's been done in this house.
Yeah. And we haven't even gotten to the inside. We'll see the inside in a few pictures, but so now we see the siding up, the windows up. They also replaced the roof up until this point. Let's get into, here we
Sorry
go.
for you guys that are listening to this.
Yeah.
You know, we're showing y'all some pictures of the job as it stands today. So thanks for
go
bearing
over to
with us.
YouTube. Find us on YouTube, the Property Brrrrothas. And you can see our screen share that we're showing the video, the pictures. And so this was the living room, where that chimney was. It is now no longer there. And man, we just have a ton of progress going through. I think currently right now, what we're doing is we have the mechanicals going in.
Yep.
Plumbing, HVAC, electrical. And yeah, man, we're just keeping on. We're pushing through.
So you were saying, what are we on month 2 right now?
Yes, I believe we started around Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So we're on month 1. So literally in 1 month, he's been able to pretty much transform that house into it's completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. Right.
Yeah.
So, and we're looking at this project being about 3 months total.
Yes. So we're looking like sometime around May, we should be starting to, the finish line should start kind of appearing and being ready to cross it there shortly. But I think just to kind of sum up, Drew, and I'm glad you mentioned this, because also during the buy process, right, is what do you want to do with this property? And you talked about it. You said, hey, for us, we like to find detached garages, in proximity to, a location like downtown Indianapolis where we can run a short-term rental. We plan on doing the main unit as a midterm rental, right? So when you are doing your due diligence and you are going through the buy process, we talked about having a buy box, right? We talked about that back on episode 3. Go back and listen to episode 3 in the buy box, but, know how you want to execute, this strategy. What is going to be the ultimate end game? Yeah. What's the end game, to maximize your return on investment? And that's what this BRRRR strategy is all about, right? It's taking, the minimum amount of capital that you can, recycling it and doing it all over again to kind of build that portfolio. And so, we're going through this. Any final thoughts, Drew, on kind of what to do, what not to do, so avoid some common mistakes?
So real quick, I did want to, not everybody knows what the difference between a long-term, short-term, and mid-term is. So when we talk about short-term, that would be your typical like VRBO or Airbnb. That's very short stays. So like less than a month, less than 30 days, right? Your midterm rental is going to be something that's 30 days to, it could be as long as a year. I currently have a midterm renter that's in one of my properties for over a year. We also have the long term, which is your traditional leases. So usually it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, right? So those are your long-term rentals. But I think that in closing, the main thing is you got to vet your contractor. You got to build some great relationships. Make sure that you have a property inspector that you can trust. You need to make sure that you think about the entire budget, what the cost of that budget is. You need to make sure that when you're looking at your budget, you're being realistic. You're not, being laser focused and saying, oh, these hard costs are the only costs that will ever, happen during this entire, what? Ish happens.
Yeah.
Ish happens, right? Mm-hmm. So we got to make sure that we have a good toilet to flush that ish down. Sorry.
But make sure you check them pipes in Indy.
You got to check them pipes.
That's plumbing, man. We don't want them clay pipes.
No, we don't. But yeah, I think, if you take the time to lay the foundation and do your due diligence, make sure that you have a reputable contractor, someone that you can trust, or if you are going to decide to do a project manage it on your own, make sure that you have good subcontractors and somebody who you trust. Like I think before you alluded to your property manager actually going out and checking out the progress of the construction. So you need somebody whose eyes are there that you can trust that's actually going to get things across the finish line, help you to get things across the finish line.
There you go. There you go. And so we just want, to encourage our listeners to really take that time, vet, find the right contractor, build that strong working relationship to ensure that your rehab is successful. Because, when we get into the BRRRR, right, that's the first
Yes,
R,
sir.
right? And so you can't have a successful BRRRR if you don't have a successful rehab. So, people, we're just so thankful that, you've joined us today. Thank you for taking a little bit out of your time. Hey, follow us on all the socials, man. Find us on Facebook. Find us on Instagram. Hey, we on TikTok. The Property Brrrrothas.
Are you dancing on TikTok?
Not yet, but hey, I might.
Man,
hey,
I want to see you get jiggy with it.
Hey, find us on YouTube, obviously. Find us on all the platforms. They all out there.
Yes,
hey,
sir.
Drew, we can be found, right?
We can be found. Hey, we can be found. Brother, this has been awesome. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge with me and the people.
Yes, we appreciate you. All right. So for Drew, I'm Jordan. Love you, man. Have a good one.
Love you too, brother. Till
We
next
are
time.
The Property
Brrrrothas.
Peace, people.
Peace.
The Property Brothers was produced and edited by the hosts. All rights are reserved by the Property Brothers LLC, and the hosts are operating exclusively on behalf of the Property Brothers LLC. Please consult appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business advice. Nothing on this show should be considered professional advice. We appreciate you all for following our journey. It would mean the world to us if you could like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. God bless.